Hi, everyone. This is Miley Martin from Student Activities at Fresno City College with another FCC Spotlight on Women's History Month. Joining me today is Linda DeKruif, the Women's Study Instructor at Fresno City College. Hi, Linda. So good to see you.
Good morning, Miley. Nice seeing you as well. Thank you for the
Good
invitation.
morning.
Yeah.
It's a nice day today, and
Yeah.
our dogs might be barking, which is okay.
I am sorry about that. I should go put them outside.
Oh, no. Well, happy March, Women's History Month. A great time to reflect on the past achievements of women who have reached equality in many areas of life. As the Women's Studies instructor here, what are you most passionate about sharing with your students?
Um, it's I love that question because to me, I get asked quite often, why do you teach women's studies? Right? Because my degree, my background was first in psychology, and then I subsequently pursued women's studies. So I'm always asked, why teach you women's studies? Well, the one thing that I'm most passionate about more than anything else, especially say for the women's studies classes, is that it's a lot more likely that students get to experience this aha moment. It's a lot more likely that they get introduced to topics that they wouldn't have thought about before, but that affect their life. And so I am most passionate about sharing with students this opportunity to become aware of things around them, to just take it in and see what they want to do with that, if anything at all. I love one thing I'm also probably equally as passionate about is for especially my female students, that they become validated, that they after this class that they can see that however they identify themselves, that they do matter, that they're not just an afterthought, they're not just secondary, that their experiences, their identity matters. And I love doing that. I love teaching students that if we think about any kind of change, social justice or any kind of change, always it's because that it's individuals who are willing to keep fighting, to persevere. Just the fact that you and I are having this conversation and that we're doing it as part of Women's History Month, it is amazing. But change doesn't just happen. Right? These are people that have to keep fighting for that. So I love doing that for my students and seeing that if they want to do anything, they have it at their disposal. The idea that giving my students the tools and the information so that they can live their best life really and also be successful at Fresno City College.
One thing I was thinking about the fact that Fresno City College has such a large minority population, and in many times in different cultures, women are taught not to really speak or ask questions. And so I know college is a time for women to learn a little
Mhm.
self-confidence, to have that freedom to
Right.
explore. And so I'm sure taking a class in women's history, they learn how women have broken barriers by speaking up. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, and based off of that as well, is in say a lot of these minority cultures that women not for some are they not only encouraged to not speak, there might be some that they get that there are punishments for speaking out. But even given all that, women are very resilient, and regardless of what culture they identify with or whichever culture they were raised in, one common thread is that women overcome struggles that they're faced with,
Mhm.
and that resiliency and that courage and that strength are great traits, regardless of how different cultures allow it or not allow that to come out, especially for
Mhm.
women.
Yeah, one student said to me, education is the bridge to that bridges the cultures between their culture and the more American academic culture. So that was very, very powerful. So, Linda, how do you feel being a woman has shaped your success? And is there an important person in your life or in history that inspired you?
Hmm. Well, in of itself, in my professional life, I'm very fortunate that I don't I don't feel being a female has hindered or helped me academically. In part, that was due to my parents, and especially my mom. My mom was a librarian before she got married and had children, and she did the more stereotypical thing. She stayed home with us 4 kids. But I was raised in a household where um, I just women were always equally respected, and even though we were raised in a patriarchal family, my dad always made a point. I'm gonna have many memories of my dad not making decisions before he would also ask my mom, and so that gave me the image that women are part of decision making. My mom raised me with the idea that I didn't realize going to college was an option when I was raised. It was just what you do after high school. And part of that is we were immigrants, and so growing up, I didn't know it was an option. It wasn't until I moved to United States, and I talked to other people, and I went, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to go to college, but this is an option. And then it was too late. I already knew that that's what I was going to do. So, and then beyond that, being in the field that I feel in academics, um, that being female, um, has not hindered, has not is not a factor in my success. I'm able to be on different committees. I'm able to be very involved on campus life. I can teach what I want. It's of course what I'm trying to teach in, but I can um, be female doesn't is not a factor. That having been said, I know a lot of that has to do with the location, like being at Fresno City College. A lot of it has to do with my field, and it's in women's studies and then psychology. And so my experience being unique to me is probably not what a lot of other women, either women in academics, experience. Mine is going to be a little bit different, I think, than those ideas. That having been said, though, especially being a women's studies instructor, I am not. I get all kinds of discrimination, or people have attitudes or stereotypical assumptions. Being a women's studies instructor, um, but that to me those I can deal with, and that I turn into a teaching moment if depending
Mhm.
upon how much time want people or want to be invested. Um, so your second part of the question had to do with if there's any one individual that I look up to. I don't know that there's any one individual. I've been thinking about that, and um, part of it has to do with, I think, being an immigrant to the United States. My childhood was not the same as people living in the United States who grew up in the United States. So I didn't grow up with TV. I didn't grow up with, we didn't have TV. Right? So growing up, I didn't have those same experiences. And so the people who I do look up to, and the people who did become more like my role models, is once I started going to college. I went to Fresno State, and so my female college professors, my mom, definitely my grandma, my just women I would learn about in my women's studies classes, they eventually became my role models, but it was more like a collective group rather than one individual.
Uh-huh.
Um, so, to me, one of the big concepts in my class is this concept called intersectionality. Intersectionality is the basic idea that there are multiple and overlapping forms of oppression or experiences that we have. So, however I identify me with all the different factors, it's going to be very different than anyone else. So it's partly for me that that's one of the core concepts in my class, so that all students in my classes, there's different things that make up who they are. And this concept of, say, role modeling, I do think is a very important one. I love that, especially for those shirts or signs that little girls are wearing, or the signs that they're carrying that say, my VP looks like me, because it's a reason why these barrier breakers are so important, and these women firsts are also important, because it shows a broader group of little girls, especially, and young women, that, well, however they identify themselves, whoever they are, that they get validated, and that it does matter. So these things do make a difference.
Wow, great points. So true, so true. Women have to see who they can be
Yeah.
sometimes. You've got to see the future in other women.
Yes, one of the very common phrases, it's the kind of idea that you can't be what you can't see, right?
Love that.
So
Yeah,
once you can see, then you too think that maybe I can aspire for that, maybe.
exactly.
So, but that having been said, I'm probably going way off topic here for you,
No,
but um, but I've had, as far as in my career, I've had some great male professors, and they're the ones who actually steered me into um, pursuing a career in, like, in higher education, and which I'm always grateful for, because this is my passion. I love teaching. I would not want to do anything else.
well, it does take a village to influence us in great directions. It's a little bit of everybody.
Yeah.
We are in a pandemic right now. We haven't had students in the classroom. Um, it's very challenging for all students. So, what encouragement do you give to your students during this time, struggling with this new learning environment? What do you tell them? I know everyone's struggling.
Right. The first and foremost, I tell them to just keep going. I want them to be proud of themselves for continuing, first of all, for pursuing an education regardless of the circumstances. Now, because of the pandemic and because of our current circumstances, even more so. So my first point is, I really want them to not be too hard on themselves, and to acknowledge, like you said, we're all struggling. We're all making adjustments to this new learning environment. So for them to really for them to also realize it's okay to say, I don't know how to do this. For our students, I really encourage them to seek out. We have many different resources, many different services on campus that are there to assist students in their educational goals, and to be successful. And so I think for students maybe who in the past have been more hesitant to seek out some assistance or some of those services or programs, that I really encourage them to use them. Those services are there for a reason. Um, we're all trying to do our best. It is, I guess, when we started this, the dogs, although they were like not in the room, it's like I know that they're there, because they're barking. We have people who have children at home, who, so while they're doing their own work, they have to take care of kids, or they have to take care of an elderly parent, or um, and then comes self-care, right? Where do we fit as individuals? And so my biggest thing as far as encouragement for students are to really just to keep going, for them to realize that they're doing great, they're doing the best that they can. Alongside with that, that it's it's not a negative thing to at times say, I can't, whether that is I can't today, or I can't this week, or whatever those parameters look like. But it's sometimes we have to do that for self-care, to say, I'm not, this one time I'm going to choose to make me a priority. I cannot do this other thing, whatever that may look like. But so my biggest thing is, I applaud them for keep going. I want to encourage them to keep pursuing their education. Some of them might have to do something different, because they do have struggles with access to internet, right? Reliable internet service, or not being able to navigate. It's even Zoom classrooms, right? Okay, or being able to finish their work. and or even having the tools that they need. Our students, I think, are fortunate enough. We do have a lot of those tools available for them to be able to be successful. Uh, excuse me. So that's my primary main thing. Just just encourage them, contact their instructors to make the best of our situation. Right?
Exactly. Great reminders for students, and self-care is so important during this time. It can come out of nowhere, and so many things are happening in real time. It is difficult. So, include closing, is there anything else you would like to share on Women's History Month?
Yeah, one other point I just want to make real quick about the previous question is, to me right now, like it kind of remind me what you said about, but it's a especially now, like education and our personal life are much more intertwined than it ever has before. And so before, whether it is, so you and I going to campus to do our job and then go home and have our personal life, for students with even coming to campus and going to class and then dealing with, then having their personal life. Now those two are much more intertwined, and which brings with it another set of concerns and issues that we just need to be aware of and acknowledge. So
Exactly. Well, Linda, great stuff. Good information. Wow. Women's History Month is enriched because of individuals like you sharing your personal views and stories, and I appreciate it so much.
yes, and I appreciate FCC for acknowledging Women's History Month, for celebrating. We have several different events planned for Women's History Month. One of perfect example is the series that you're doing on Spotlight at FCC for the various celebrations, the various events that come up throughout the year. So I really appreciate that as well. So thank you for this time.
Well, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you on campus soon.
Same here. Bye, Molly.
Bye.